Welcome to another episode of the Limitless Life Podcast. I am your host, Kyle Smith. And today with me, I got Dan Pagnotta. He is the coach for Silverback Strength. And if you ever see this man in person, you'll understand why. He is equally as hairy and just as strong. He runs Silverback Strength, hence the it's inspired by his prowess, of course. And I really wanted to have him on the podcast and chat because I think he is a fantastic coach, and I'm really excited to have you here, Dan.
Cool. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. This is so much fun.
Yeah, it'll be solid. So before we actually start chatting about things, I just want to acknowledge some pretty sweet things about you. I think that you are a very a really calm individual. You're a very passionate individual. I think that you're probably one of the best coaches I know. I think that the impact and influence that you have on the people around you is very abundant. It's led with love. It's led with care. And it's very noticeable. Even when you're feeling, or even when you're seeming like a really stern coach, you definitely have compassion in there. And I think that you as a human being, as a coach, all around, that you are contributing to a lot of positive benefits for the people all around. And I think that there should be more people like yourself. And for myself, I just think that having you around is really fun because I feel like I get to challenge myself. I get to kind of converse with someone who's at the same spot or even a little ahead in some areas. And it's fun having that conversation and shooting the shit and having the back and forth. And so it's you bring a solid chunk of me challenging my thoughts and perspectives on a couple things. And I'm never said that to you, but that is what I kind of look at everything and how I interact with you. I know that's going to be a nice little knowledge bomb, or it's going to be something completely out of the blue. And I appreciate you. I appreciate everything you're doing. And I can't speak on behalf of everyone else, but I think you're a pretty awesome fella.
That's super kind of you. I appreciate that. Thank you. And as you know, like you and I go back years. I'm going to say like 6 years now almost, hey?
I would say at least six.
At least 6 years. And I remember when I was first getting my business started, you were the person that I came to for help. And I still remember us sitting in one of the nearby bars by the gym there, and all of our notebooks spread out, beers all over the table, and So no, I appreciate the words, and thank you very much because you've been a direct influence on how I do my coaching. So thank you.
Cool. My pleasure, man. So I think every superhero has an origin story. So let's talk about you. Tell me about your origin story, man.
Well, if you don't know, I come from an extensive martial arts background. I started doing ITF Taekwondo when I was 6 years old. I did it for 30 years. I know, a long time. In that time, I was never in great shape. I was never a star athlete up until I turned about 18 or 19. And that's kind of when I turned it around a little bit. I was always a pudgy little kid. I was always uncoordinated, lazy, just the typical dweeb. And when I turned, I think 17, is when I decided I wanted to start getting into some competition because, I'd been doing it for a while at that point, and almost 11 years at that point. And I started doing some competition, went to my first world championships in 2002. And that's when I started hitting my stride a little bit as a competitor, as an athlete. I started learning how to properly work out when I was almost 14. It took a few years to get into it. So when I was 14, I started picking up weights. And so basically from 17 until the age of 30, I was heavily competitive, traveled all across the world. I'm represented Canada 9 times at the World Championships as an athlete, which is pretty cool. Represented Canada as a coach 3 times, and that's international, so at the world level. And then throughout Canada and nationally, Western Canadian Championships, I don't know how many times I've coached and how many times I've won those tournaments. So yeah, my background has been a martial arts background and strength training in that aspect. And it wasn't until 2019 where I left the martial arts world, just because I hit that point. I've been there, done that, and I needed a new challenge for myself. And it was time to move on. I had a good fitness background and always room to learn more. So I realized really quick how much more I had to learn, how behind I was, because we were training kind of old ways. So yeah, basically from 2019 till now, I've had my own business as a personal trainer.
Nice. And so you were in Taekwondo, like what the full duration of Taekwondo, how long was that? From 6 years ago, almost, I guess. 2, 3?
Till about 4 years ago.
Till about 4? So how long was
Yeah.
that? My math sucks.
About 30 years.
30 years. So something I want to ask on that one. I think this would be a cool one. So there's a sunk cost fallacy, is that a majority of people will actually stay in a shitty circumstance just because of the duration of time they've dedicated to a particular thing. I find that a lot of it would be with like relationships. Like people will stay in shitty relationships just because they put so much effort towards it, and time and money maybe. And then same with businesses as well. So the question that I have for you is that transition from something that you've dedicated 30 years of your life to now running your own biz that's crushing it, that's doing really well, and it's on its upward trajectory. So what was the difficulty, or did you have any difficulty in maybe like reconciling like two different parts of you, or trying to like, do you separate? How is it that you went from something that is so long to something so new?
Very, very difficult. Very difficult. And even now, I still have some thoughts of, man, I kind of miss it here and there. But the hardest part and the easiest part, to be honest, was cutting certain relationships. That was the hardest, but it was also it was hard to do because, like you said, coming from an emotional standpoint, dedicated so much time, so much energy, so much passion into it. But from a self-preservation standpoint, easy, no question, and I would do it again.
Nice. So from the perspective of wanting, was there a feeling that you just recognized where you're just like, now it's done, now it's like something where was it just all cognitive? Was it like, nah, this is the time for me to move? Or was it something that's pulling you, drawing you away from it?
When I decided to leave, the feeling I had was, it was about a year and a half in the making. Like I knew I was going to be moving on at some point. I wanted to give one lap to move on. In 2019, summer 2019, I was coaching for the World Championships, and I had a group of athletes that I was taking to the Worlds in Brazil, in Iguazu Falls, and because like I said, when I make a commitment, I stick to it. And that was the main one at the time. That was the one I wanted to finish because I didn't want to leave 20 some odd athletes hanging, and I still love it. So, I mean, leaving was very difficult, but again, my fulfillment to the athletes was number one. So yeah, after that World Championships in August 2019, is when I left. I fulfilled that commitment, and it was time to go.
Sweet. So from a perspective, like it's going to be for a generalization, let's say someone's struggling with what they're currently doing and what they want to do.
Sure.
What would you think would be like a takeaway or a tip or a tactic to be able to basically just transition forward into where you want to go? What would be a takeaway?
The biggest takeaway that I would say is honesty. If if you're honest with yourself and you truly feel it's the right decision, and not a matter of feel, sorry, because I had to do this both ways. I had to see what I felt and I had to logic it out a little bit as well. So, did I know it was going to be a risk? Yes. Was it scary? Yes. Was I uncertain? 100%. Because at the time, like 30 years doing something, it kind of forms your identity, you know? So leaving was, oh my God, I'm leaving something that is my identity. Who am I now? So if you can be completely honest with yourself and knowing who you are knowing who you are without what you think is defining you. So knowing yourself inside, can if you can truly and honestly acknowledge that and accept that person, it makes any separating or any cutting of ties, I feel, a little less painful, a little less traumatic, if that makes sense.
Totally.
So knowing, just being like it's that old adage, being comfortable in your own skin, you have to be honest with yourself. And if it's something that and it's going to be scary, because you know how you have people have buyer's remorse, like they buy a house, like, oh my God, should I have done that? I of course had that too. I left and I was like, oh my God, did I make the wrong decision? Like I'm on my own now. So having a little bit of honesty and that confidence in yourself. Yeah.
Something you touched on there was addressing the logical as well as the emotional. I think all too often, a majority of folks are just focusing on how they feel rather than the facts of the situation. By being able to have the combination of the emotional kind of aspect and the logical aspect, how do you find kind of talking to those or reflecting on each of those kind of separately? Do you think you approached, I'm just going to put it as entities. Do you think you approached each entity in a different way, like the emotional side and the logical side? And how is it that you were able to get, I would say Dan is the consciousness, then I see the logical side, then I see the emotional side. So how is it that Dan was able to bring the other two together to get you to this point?
That's a good one. It took a lot of notepads, actually. So logicking through it was a matter of a few decisions. 1, financial. 2, goal setting. 3, 10 years down the road, where do I want to be? Honestly, the only emotional part of it was the dedication. Like I've been in it for so long, so that I've been in it for so long, how much further could I go? So for me personally was athlete, been to the top of the competition there and did well. As a coach at the top level, been there, done that. As for running the organization, I was the head instructor for one of the largest schools in North America, and I had been for a while. The only next step after that was for myself to have my own martial arts business. And that on its own was, do I want to keep that lifestyle, keep those connections, keep that way of life, or do I want to go another route, right? So I decided to go another route for other reasons that I don't want to get into right now. But the logic part of it is, financially, could I make this work? Yes, I can. As a business owner, do I want to be a business? First of all, do I want to be a business owner? Yes or no? Or do I want to get another job? I did want to be a business. I was an employee. Like I wasn't the owner, so I didn't have that freedom. As a business owner, I do have the freedom. I do have the drive, and like I said, it's all on me. So that's kind of, I had to imbalance something that could have easily gone the other way. I had to find an imbalance to make a proper decision.
Gotcha. What do you think are some indicators of, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. You had a point there.
I forgot.
Fair enough. What do you think would be some, because from what you're saying there, to also the point of growing as far as you can within the particular environment that you are or were, Do you think that there was a sense of stagnancy that was also discouraging staying in there?
Yes.
Because you also like crushed all these other accolades, because you were like you're freaking crushing it. Like there's a
Yeah.
bajillion different like
Hit.
things that you've
We
won
hit.
like for, but go for it.
Yeah, we hit it. I hit a ceiling there,
Mm.
and it was an unbreakable concrete and steel ceiling. It just there was nowhere else to go, you know. So I just wanted to do more. I just wanted more. I was being
Fair.
selfish. I'm gonna be honest. I was being selfish. I just wanted to do more. You know,
Nice. Why do you think people have? Why do you think selfishness has a bad name?
fear.
Mm. How do you overcome fear?
That's a good question. There's a million books on it, and none of them, I don't think, have the same answer.
I
How do you?
completely. It's actually kind of funny. It's kind of like happiness. I think fear and happiness are quite similar this way. Where
Mhm.
if you're on a stage and you're chatting with 1,000 people and you ask them, "Do you know what happiness is?" or raise your hand if you know what happiness is, and everyone's going to raise their hand. But then you can also go to them individually and get them to explain what happiness is, and then everyone will have a different answer. You'll have 1,000 different answers. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that was like it was definitely a question that I knew was going to be like broad, but yeah, I think fear is something that is irrational and is not really based in as much logic as we like to believe, at least
But
here.
it's
Mm,
necessary. But it's necessary.
hmm.
If you're not afraid if you're not afraid to take a risk, sorry, if you're taking a risk and there's no fear, it's not really a risk. It's just it's a decision. With every risk you take, there is going to be some underlying fear of failure, fear of success, fear of whatever. Like everybody is different. My biggest fears when I left was fear of irrelevancy. Like, who am I now? Like, am I just going to be some random? I had a fear of failure because going into a new world, especially, and the thing for myself as a personal trainer, um, I've been a certified trainer since 2013, but again, I was focused on my athletes at the time. I haven't worked in a box gym where a lot of people get their experience and they get some clients and some base. I basically went from one to the other with zero following and no, like, nothing. That was scary. That was creepy. So again, fear is necessary, but to overcome fear, I don't know, man. Been in it for a few years now, and there's some things I still get scared of. You know?
I think I think for myself, I find that I'm trying to like this podcast in itself is a counter, not a counter, but it is a way of diving into that fear because it's something new, it's something fresh, something that I'm
Mm-hmm.
not used to. I like to talk, so that's helpful, and I have fantastic people to chat with, so that's a bonus too. But I found that especially in it's so weird. I find like recently because I'm noticing that my goals are significantly more ambitious. It's
Mm-hmm.
interesting because I actually find, and in a good way, I don't find it to be a bad way, but it's almost like it's going to sound weird, but I feel like I'm in a perpetual state of fear. But I think that the skill of emotional regulation helps with that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But I find like it's really interesting just kind of feeling that little bit of fear because I think it makes, well, for myself at least, I think it makes me a little bit sharper where
Yeah.
I'm keeping it monitored and I'm not letting it go like off the rails, because if it went off the rails, then I'd be all over the place, man. Like there'd be like, I would be, ah, it would be horrible. It would be a horrible existence.
Well, see, the fear, like, it's your adrenaline, right? It's your fight, flight, or freeze. So, I mean, when you can when you can control that, it's like I said, I can relate totally because when I was competing, stepping into the ring, with some fighter from Russia or from North Korea, oof, there was a little bit of fear. I know nothing about this fighter. I don't know how good he is. All I know is where he's from and that he's in my category. you know, because we never had the luxury of like studying a fighter because there's so many of them, right? It's just random. So stepping into the ring was, oh my God, my heart is pounding. You know, you can train your body to adapt to that fear. So your natural response is freeze. You know, anybody that has any martial arts experience or any other experience competing, the nerves kick in and you just free. Legs weigh 1,000 pounds, respond to anything. You can't move, you can't think, you can't breathe. So that's too much. The more you get used to it, the more you train it, that little bit of fear, like you said, does keep you sharp, you know, keep your. That was weird.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi could be a little off on your end, but that's okay. Or it could be off on my end as well. But I do see you now.
Yeah.
All
Anyways.
good. Technical difficulties. That's all good. It happens.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. So, anyways, having a little bit of fear to get the adrenaline going a little bit, it will keep you a bit sharper. So, I guess, like I said, a little bit of fear is good.
I like that. What do you think what do you think is an easy remedy for everyday struggles? That was just a random question that just popped up. I think it'd be fun.
An easy remedy for everyday struggles?
Yeah. So let's say
like what? Like
super
what?
generalization.
Like easy remedy, workout.
Yeah. That is an easy remedy for most.
Generally,
I guess it wasn't. Yeah.
Workouts.
I get that would be the answer to most of yeah, that would be the answer. Let's move on to a different question because that was a pretty solid one. So whereabouts do you see yourself going into the future?
How far?
How far do you look?
I do 5, 10, and 15 years.
Let's go for 5.
In 5 years, I would like my online business to be picked up, sustaining itself, and supporting me, obviously, and my other half. In 5 years, I would have liked to have accomplished at least 10 to 12 bodybuilding shows because you know that I'm excuse me, I started that journey, which is brand new to me. So a little bit of fear again is stepping on stage for the first time as a bodybuilder. And that was actually something I decided to do January of 2022 of last year. And that's just one goal that I've been getting to this year too. So that New Year's resolution is still in fruition. So
nice.
But yeah, in 5 years, like I said, my personal training business is doing fairly well, so I'd like to keep doing that. And yeah.
How much of a role does objectives play in your world? Because
my house.
So
I didn't catch that, dude. Sorry.
A little bit there. Okay, there we go. So for objectives, how much of a role do you believe objectives play in the accomplishment of a goal?
Like what?
So I guess I'm more so asking from a standpoint of someone who is maybe struggling with where to go, what to do, how to do it. Because for me, I think objectives and goals are what create clarity and what to do on a day-to-day basis. And I think that when
100%.
we're walking around in this smog and in this like this fog of uncertainty, it's a fog of uncertainty. Right. So when we're walking around this fog of uncertainty and we know we want things to be different, we don't know what we want different though, and what to do differently. So I guess so I think objectives are really important. I believe you also have that same sentiment.
100%.
So how would you break it down for someone who's wanting to knows in their gut that there is something different they want to do, but they're uncertain of how to get started? What would be some uh, steps on that one?
3 words that everybody has the hardest time saying or admitting or trying to do is ask for help. Ask for help.
Nice. Why do you think we
Ask for help.
struggle with asking for help so much?
Pride.
Mm,
Pride
fair
is a bitter
enough.
pill.
Ooh,
Yeah.
pride is a bitter pill. I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Pride.
how do we?
Pride.
How
Nobody
do?
likes to admit that. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
People don't like to admit that they need help, and they're scared of asking for help because, from my experience anyways, because I've been in that same boat, I didn't want to ask people for help because I felt it made me inferior. I felt that I didn't belong. I felt that I wasn't good enough. So people have a hard time asking for help when a simple, hey, I need some help. Do you have any thoughts on this? Could actually be a night and day shift. Like it could completely change everything for you.
Where do you think it kind of comes from? Where, well, obviously pride, but because I was just kind of thinking about it as you were talking about it. And I think there's a lot. I think everybody knows to ask for help, and I think asking for help it's pushed, like it's encouraged to ask for help. So where do you think where do you think that narrative of feeling inferior, asking for help, or those kind of like negative associations come from? That's actually, yeah, I'm not even sure where it comes from, to be honest.
I'm gonna have to go back to pride. It's
Fair
gonna
enough.
pride, ego. Another common one is ego. People just they are ashamed. They just don't want to seem like they don't know something.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah, that's fair.
that's always been a that's always been a killer is someone's ego. You know,
Brutal. I like
been
how
there
I
too.
like.
Like, and I'd say like we've all been there. But yeah, I would say pride and ego are like fear. Having a little bit of pride, having a little bit of an ego is good.
Mhm.
It'll push that competitive edge. It'll drive you to where you want to. But too much of it, pride and ego can give you that fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah,
Or yeah.
because it is a survival mechanism. Like I think like all of us are just an accumulation of our defense mechanisms, and I think a majority of that is rooted in ego and pride. Like they're there to help us out
Mm-hmm.
and to keep us safe. It's not. I think when people think of ego, they think, oh, you're so egotistical, which I don't think there's anything wrong with someone having when it's referenced with confidence, for example. But I think too many folks are listening to the ego a little bit too often. So
Mm-hmm.
the way I break it down for my brain is I look at my ego as it's just like either a kid like having a temper tantrum where if I'm feeling a certain way, I have to reflect on it. I'm like, why is it that I'm feeling aggravated, irritated, frustrated, upset, and all those kind of things? And
Mm-hmm.
usually it's really silly, but usually when I'm thinking on it, I'm like, okay, so what is going on? What was the stimulus? Okay, this. And let's say it was like not not getting my daily walk in, something simple. And I could be all like frustrated and stuff like that. And I think that's when the ego comes in, creeps in a little bit and just has a little temper tantrum. So that's why I look at the ego as a kid, where the kid's like, I want my shit. Give me it. And then you're just able to, you're able to like check it and direct and distract the inner toddler. And I think ego is really, that's how I view my ego. And I see it as this little kid that's like, okay, yeah, I know that you're there to like protect me, dude, but like you got to chill. You got to chill every once in a while. What you're thinking right now is not as bad as you're really thinking.
I agree. Yeah, 100%. Putting putting a label to it or giving it like isolating on its own is how trauma is dealt with. When you're feeling all this flood of emotions, if you can break down each one and give it a job, like give it a label or something, then it's easier to deal with. It's like I'm feeling I'm feeling sad. Well, why am I feeling sad? Well, because this, and this. So I know these things compile and they add up to what means sadness. So I know how to deal with that. This makes me happy. So you find all the things that these 10 little things, okay, these are equated to happiness. I can separate, I can compartmentalize there, and I know that's what I can focus more on. So same with fear, same with ego, same with, yeah.
All of the above. I do the same thing too. I actually call it my council of Kyles. Like
There you go.
I go for a lot of walks, man. I'm thinking a lot. And I found that and it's so funny because we have like so many different varieties of disorders. But but I kind of think to myself, I'm like, you know what? Objectively, I bet you I check off a couple of the boxes when it comes to an associative personality disorder. I think it would be up there. I talk to myself way too often, but I actually find that when I doing the same thing that you just mentioned, where I actually break everything up into the Council of Kyles, or at least like I kind of think of it like Star Trek, where my consciousness is the captain and then the feels are just around. It's the only Star Trek reference that I have in my life at all. And I don't even watch Star Trek. I just know how the hub of the ship's created or like done. And it's just very appealing. so
That's an
I think
interesting way to look at it.
yeah, because it's like the way that I think of it is like the only difference between yourself and me is our consciousness. Like you still have the same sensations of fear that I feel. Like, and it's like our thresholds may be different or may vary, but realistically, if we go to the bare bones of it, we still have the same physiological responses. And so I think that everyone's ship is kind of similar. It's just how the captain takes over and how the consciousness, being consciousness Dan or consciousness Kyle, is taking care of the rest of the ship. And I think that being able to recognize that for myself actually created a lot more peace and in the way of knowing that I can depend on myself. Because I think that whatever we depend on makes the rules. And if we're depending on something externally, then that makes the rules. But if we depend on internally, if we can depend on ourselves, then we have a lot more flexibility and we can work with our own rules.
So I'm going to take that and go all the way back to how we started this conversation when you asked me what it took for me to leave something that I was committed to for 30 years. It took exactly that little honesty, that breaking down of, okay, what's going to make me happy here? What's going to make me happy there? And if I stay, is this going to make me happy, or is this going to dictate how I live the rest of my life? So that can go for any relationship. So yeah, those full circle.
Nice. I love the full circle, man. We'll probably go full circle like 30 minutes from now. I'll be like, yeah, that. So do you have any like processes that you take your clients through to kind of go through that kind of idea, that kind of perception, not shift, but something like that. Something
like how they can self-evaluate.
Yeah. Do you teach self-evaluation? There you go. I guess.
I don't teach it, but I will discuss it with them as needed, because everybody's so different, and I'm not entirely comfortable all the time doing that with them because everyone's needs are different, and it's hard. It's one thing to have empathy for others and to understand where they're coming from, but for example, I have a couple of clients that are, women that are older than me, that have kids, that are married, they have different jobs. I can take in and understand how they're feeling, why they're feeling that, but until I'm in their shoes, I can't really offer them advice as to how to fix it. The best I can do is offer an objective opinion and what I would suggest, and they can take it as is. They can take pieces of it or take the whole thing. So again, the one thing that I do enforce on them is to be absolutely honest, and I don't take on clients unless they truly are honest with themselves, because for example, and you know this too, for example, having someone try to lose weight, like body fat, is a pain in the ass. Can we swear on here?
Yeah, of course. Fuck yeah.
It fucking sucks. It is hard. You know, for some people, it's super easy. You know, look at me. I'm working out twice a week. I can eat whatever the hell I want. And I look like this. And then you got people like me who have to diet down, who really have to be conscious, who have to be very mindful of what they eat. They got to keep their activity. And if they don't, they swell up to 285 pounds. They look like shit. You know? So you have to, yeah, you kind of have to go with it a little bit. So I don't take on clients without telling them, like, this is going to be a struggle. And I will tell them straight up, it's like, this is going to be a little bit of a struggle, but you got this. You know, do you really want to do this? Why do you want to do this? Why is this important? You know, well, I want my husband to stay with me. Well, that's a whole other conversation, but, you know, so they have to have the cliche, they have to know their why. So, yeah. And if they're completely honest about it and honest with themselves, then it does make it easier. It's sugar with that bitter pill.
Where do you think, this is going to be a cool question, I'm going to keep this one. Where do you think, because the why is very important. And I completely, it is cliche, and it is I believe a platitude where,
sure.
Yeah, it's a platitude. I think it's a platitude. Working on my English, working on my grammar, but going with the why part, like even Simon Sinek, he has a book called Start with Why, and starting with your why. Right. Oh yeah, nice. I think I have somewhere around here as well. But so starting with why, I think starting with why is always important, because then there's actually like an emotional component to it. I think when you're thinking of your why, you get to go a little deeper than superficial stuff. Mm-hmm. However, where do you think starting with your why falls short? And I'm thinking that because
we're just starting with your why falls short.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm thinking maybe I'll just shoot the shit on this one. I think when someone is starting with their why, where it falls short, I think starting with when someone is starting with their why. Okay, I'll go from my own POV. I think for me, starting with my why falls short when I am comparing. It's down to comparison syndrome, I guess. When I'm comparing myself to too many people and I'm actually adopting their whys. There we go. I think that's when the why falls short, is when I think you know what? I think all of us are kind of like,
if they're adopting somebody else's why, then they're not being honest with themselves. It's not your why, it's mine.
That's right.
So again, it's the honesty.
Yeah. What do you think?
So go ahead.
Why do you think people struggle with honesty? And I mean like specifically internal honesty, because I know people that are like awesome externally honest, but they're great at lying to themselves. I think that we are the best liars to ourselves.
Yeah, fear. You want to believe something else. You want to believe that you either a fear of you wanting to believe that you are better than what you actually are, or fear of admitting that you are not up to the standard in which you want to be at. So I can tell you this from a personal experience. I am competing for the first time this summer as a natural bodybuilder. Okay. Mm-hmm. I can look in the mirror, and when I take my shirt off and do my photos and everything, I can honestly say to myself, I'm like, I am not in good shape. I am not there. Okay. That's the physical part. In my head, and this was a long time ago too, even when I was competing as an athlete, in my head, I know that when I'm asking myself these questions, have I done and am I doing absolutely everything I can to get to the point where I want to be and not make excuses? Am I actually doing it? Like on my checklists, you know, it's easy if someone's doing a check-in form. It's like, have you adhered to your diet? Yes. Click. Did you really? Are you really doing your workouts, or are you just doing the workouts? You know, are you really following your diet, or are you following your diet? you know? So yeah, just that deep honesty and admitting, and people are afraid to, it's like, you know what? Yeah, I guess I guess I could have pushed a little bit harder. I guess I could have followed an extra, you know, a little bit more strict. I could have done this. I could have been, should have been. I think that's where people get lost. So yeah.
Nice. I like that.
Like it's such a broad spectrum, right? Like there's so many ways to go on it. Trying to condense it a little bit.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
tough to
the
condense,
honest,
eh?
the honesty, like I said, the honesty is being comfortable, like I said, being comfortable with yourself. So there have been times in my life where it's like, did you actually train your hardest for this competition, or did you just show up, do the workouts, break a sweat, say, yeah, I did it, took my selfie, look at me guys, look how hard I'm working. You know, is that what I did, or did I actually buckle down, give it everything I got? And the only way to know, for me personally, the only way to know if you've done it or not is that when the deadline has come, right? Say, for example, at my shows in the summer, when the deadline is here and I have to go perform, do I have any regrets? Do I regret the way I look? You know, win or lose or draw or whatever. If I lose, then I have to be comfortable knowing that I gave it everything I got. I trained my ass off. I did follow my diet. I did my stupid fucking photos when I didn't want to because I hate doing the photos. I missed out on some events. I, you know, chose to have my quality foods rather than my donaires, which, you know, donaires are good quality, but whatever. You know what I mean? You know, did I actually get there honestly, or did I do it just to say, hey guys, so I did my show, I lost today, feel bad for me, blah, blah, blah. When I go onto the stage this summer, I know like last year I busted my ass to drop about 40 pounds. This year I'm doing my first ever competition. I know my first ever competition cut, just because I know my habits and how I am now. I know that the second I get on stage, I'm not going to have a single regret because, for one, I know I'm not going to win. I know that. I don't have the experience. I don't have the build. I'm just not there. But I'm doing it for the first time just to get on stage, get that experience. I know that I will have given it my absolute all, period. I've had that with fighting too. Have I lost fights because I didn't train? Yup. Everybody saw, oh, look how hard Daniel's training. But Daniel deep down knew, it's like, yeah, I didn't really. But there are also fights where I trained my balls off, you know, blood, sweat, tears, and everything in between. And I know when I won, it's like, fuck yes, I won. And when I lost, like, yeah, I lost. He was better. That's fine. He was better. And that's kind of, when you're honest with yourself like that, I think it takes the pride and ego out of it a little bit.
I totally agree, because then you're actually looking back at like the behaviors rather than the perceptions.
100%.
And if
Same
you
with
know
my,
it,
sorry,
but
same with running like a business. You know, how's your business doing? Well, if the business isn't succeeding, but you're giving it everything you've got, you know, you're following your own deadlines, you're disciplined enough to do what you're supposed to be doing without anybody hassling you. If it's not succeeding, okay, then it's time to make that decision, time to move on. Just like how I left my place of 30 years, you know? If your business is failing because you are posting on Instagram, but it's whatever, you
you're
know,
doing the bare
you are
minimum.
you're doing the minimum. You're talking to people. It's like, yeah, I'm a personal trainer, and then that's it, you know. And everybody who runs their own business knows, like, if you're being honest with yourself, it's like, are you actually doing everything you should be? Like, what are you doing during the day? What are you doing? What should you be doing? What could you be doing? And are you doing it? You know, and be honest. If you need to rest, and don't feel bad about resting and being lazy, because, you know, I do that too. There are days where it's like, you know what? I'm turning my phone, my computer, and everything off, and I'm just gonna watch a show, and I'm just gonna fall asleep doing it. I need that. But if I can sit and watch a show and be like, man, I should be doing something else, make a choice. And your choice reflects your outcome. So, I mean, just be honest with yourself. And that was the hardest. It's still a hard lesson for me, but that was the hardest lesson I had to learn growing up, because I was notorious for not telling the truth growing up. Like, I lied to people, I lied to myself. I was the worst. So
Yeah. You know what? Honestly, I was actually up there too. Like I recall in my teens, because I actually went from like school to school for a solid chunk of time. So I just made friends, and apparently lying's a lot easier to make friends than being honest, at least when you're like a short duration of time. And yeah, that resonates with me, because I find myself now, just after reflecting on that period in my time, and now there's just like there's more honesty within me and around me than at any other point in my time. And I think no matter, well, one, I know that honesty is always tough to face. I think that honesty is it's something that's always there, and it may get smaller, but I think the honesty, or the little like I think the little, like, I'm thinking of a creature. I'm thinking of a creature that's like, no, man, you can lie to yourself. It's okay. You can. It's a little goblin. There we go. You can lie to yourself. It's okay. You don't have to
it's your
worry about.
consciousness.
Yeah.
It's the little devil and little angel. It's like, go
Yeah.
ahead, go ahead,
Exactly.
it's fine.
Go ahead. It's cool. You can just not do anything, and everything will totally work out. It's okay. And I think those are funny, like, little lies that we tell ourselves. I think it's just perpetuates. Was there when it comes to being more honest with yourself, do you think that there was like a particular time or moment, or maybe a reflection that really stuck out, where you're just like, shit, I got to be way more honest with myself, because if I'm not honest with myself, then this is just creating more chaos in my life. Because keeping up with all the lies is really fucking hard, man.
I was just gonna say, keeping the honesty is less chaotic, and sorry, lost my train of thought here. It's easier. Sorry, yeah, with the honesty, you don't take things so personally if you can have that internal honesty. So growing up, right, for myself, I had a big time body dysmorphia. I was always conscious about my body. And someone said to me, it's like, yeah, you're fat, you're overweight. I took it so personally. It's like, I'm not, I'm training, whatever. But that was that lie I was telling myself. Now, if someone says to me, he's like, yeah, you're a little overweight, I'm like, I know. You're going bald. I know. You can't take things so, it's just not personal. It's like, you don't know what you're talking about. It's like, I know, I'm a couple years into this, of course I don't know, I'm learning, thanks, what else you got?
Yeah.
It's like, how come you're not so strong? It's like, because I haven't been training. I can bench press more than you. Good. If you've been training, I fucking hope so. Like, good for you. Like, you don't take it so personally. When you're not honest, you're trying to feed that pride. So when someone says to you, like, I can bench more than you, it's like, yeah, well, when I was 20 years old, I could do that. You start playing Remember When.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's so powerful. It's so powerful.
So yeah, let's chat about this one for a little bit, because I totally agree. I think it's very powerful. So when it comes to what is your internal dialogue, or how do you filter through what to take in and what to let go of when someone says something that maybe may seem, or you may perceive as like, but it's like, let's say it's from a place of intention, but some people can still take well-intentioned statements and just go off the rails in a negative realm. So how is it that you filter through, or how do you filter through what to take on and what to leave out?
Context, I think. So a lot of people don't want to hear that they're inadequate at something, So just being in the industry for myself for a few years, in our industry, like, you're always learning something, and I know personally that I am not at the same level as a lot of the big names in the fitness industry, so I can't compare to them. All I can do is learn from them. There was a point, like even when I first started, it's like, man, how am I ever gonna measure up? How am I gonna do this? And honestly, I may not. They have had that experience, they have that education, they have everything, and they have all that time. So the best I can do is the best I can do. And be honest, do I actually want to learn this particular subject? If I'm reading it and I'm not interested in it, then fuck it, it's gone. If this is something I actually want to learn, I will go ahead and learn it. If it's something I want to be good at, I will go ahead and just be good at it. So like you were saying before, people like to compare to one another. You don't do that. Comparison is for competition, and it's still subjective.
I like the saying of comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes.
I really like that one. Like I heard that one a while back, but it still sticks because I think that's one thing that I've been saying for myself, just to keep myself in check. Whereas I find when when I'm the most productive, I am the least comparative. Does that make sense? Yeah, good enough. I'm the least likely to compare with myself when I'm more productive, and I believe that's because I'm doing things that are constructive rather than destructive, like scrolling on social media mindlessly. Like I have usually whatever medium I'm on, it usually has an intention of education rather than distraction.
Mm-hmm.
But I've noticed like the times that I felt the shittiest about myself is the times I spent the most time not doing the things, and then going back to what you're saying, maybe being dishonest with myself and saying, nah, because to a certain degree, or saying basically, nah, like, no, this is a really effective use of my time. And that's just lying to myself. So I found like those are the things that I recognize when I'm feeling the shittiest or at my worst. I notice that I'm actually on social media platforms, not in a way of education without the intention of education. It's with the intention of just like fucking shooting the shit with nothing. I'm basically just like being an idiot, more or less.
Just exercising your thumb.
Yeah, just exercising the thumb, man. Just like, oh. I did a flex with my thumb for those of you that are just listening. But I think I think okay, I got a question for you. How is it, and I think it's going to be a good one because I think you'll have a blunt answer to it, and I'll have a blunt answer to it too. But how do you think people keep that kind of thought process in check? So how is it that they can recognize, wow, maybe it's actually like me just not doing the things I should be doing, and that's the reason why I'm so miserable? Because there is a huge increase in like maybe people not feeling worthy enough to be able to do what they want to do, but at the same time they're perpetuating a problem by continuously participating in things that makes them feel like shit. So how would you
I'll go back to the answer I gave before, was ask for help.
Nice.
Ask for help.
Yeah.
Like I said, when I was first starting, I came to you. Mm-hmm. I came to a couple of the other coworkers that we have in our gym. Right, our gym is full of really, really experienced, really, really good coaches and business professionals. So you'd be stupid not to ask for help there, in my opinion. If you're not asking for help with the people that are been there doing it and have done that, it's just stupid. Like for example, if I was to, start in real estate right now, I know nothing about real estate. Obviously I take all the courses, get my certification, and would I go do it on my own? Would I try to do it on my own? I would try. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. If you didn't ask the people that know, then you're going to be in a boat with one paddle, just round and round and round and round and round, slowly moving forward. So ask for help. There's no shame in it, because people want to help, is what I find. People want to help. I remember asking you, I asked, can I name names on here?
Yeah, of course. I don't see why not. No.
Like I asked Dean, I asked Johnny, I asked Hannah, I asked Andy, I've asked Ian and Jess a few things. Like, I'll ask. Why not? It's the worst that can happen. They tell me to fuck off and be like,
yeah,
okay,
exactly. Fine. Yeah. And then you just go ask another person. Yeah, man. Yeah. I think this like freaking realm of like having the expectation that we should just know everything all the time, all at once, is just absolutely ridiculous. And just, yeah, that's what I recognize is like too many people are focusing on too many things rather than the things that are actually important within their lives, within the context of their lives. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to pay attention to too many things that are just way, way out there. And then they'll say like the base kind of component to it. Like, I'm trying to think of an example, but nothing's really coming to mind. But rather than digging into, I'm kind of losing my train of thought on this one.
How to make it better. Like, how do you make it better? So you want to build a house, right? Mm-hmm. And you know how to nail wood together. You know what something's supposed to look like, but you don't know exactly how to measure it up. You don't know how to factor in all these other components that could affect this particular outcome. You just don't know. So because you don't have the experience or the knowledge or the skill set or whatever. If you asking one person, the story about that, about the electrician, who's like in his 80s or whatever,
Gonna get you to say that last little bit one more time.
On this one site, and this one young guy is working on site too. And what's that?
You were chopping out for a little bit there, so would you be able to start with the how to nail things together? You just froze a smidge. But yeah, got you back, man.
There, back again.
Yeah, man.
This is so bizarre. Okay, where do you want me to start again?
You were talking about the house and nailing boards together. You know how to nail boards together.
Right. So people know how to nail boards together. You take a nail, hammer it in, and two pieces of wood are connected. Great. Right. You know how to lift something up and put it down. Okay, great. But if you're going to build like a kitchen, for example, if you don't know how to measure up and fit in your piping and how the caulking, how the plumbing, how everything works without asking the people that know how it works, it's a disaster waiting to happen. Mm-hmm. So there's an old story about an electrician, right? Some older guy, and he's walking around site, and there's a team of young guys there doing some electrical work, and the young guys are having this one problem. They couldn't figure it out. Days and days and days. They couldn't figure out how something worked. So this one guy, the older guy, said, okay, let me take it. Just like this. Click. And everything started working. It was fantastic. He said, okay, here's a bill for $5,000. And the guy's like, what? What the hell? Why is this $5,000? It took you like 30 seconds to fix. It's like, listen here. It took me 35 years to fix that problem. My experience and knowing this, it just took me 30 seconds. You're paying for my experience, my time that I've put in. You'll get there one day, young guy. So asking the people, and if you have to hire someone to help you, hire someone to help you. I know you have, right? Because it can save you a lot of time it does seem like it's a lot of money up front, but I mean, would you spend $5,000 to have a lifetime of success? Of course. So ask the people around you for help. And you know what? 9 times out of 10, they won't send you a bill.
Fair. Yeah, totally.
So
I think, yeah, man. So how much of a, well, I guess you've probably had some form of mentorship since you were in Taekwondo, really.
mm-hmm.
Damn. So how much of a role do you think the mentors play? I suppose it kind of ties into what you were saying before with the old person taking on the experience, being able
Yeah.
to learn from the mistakes. I think that working with someone, or at least like being inspired by someone. So I listen to a lot of podcasts and I listen to a lot of YouTube intentionally. It's not just cat videos. Actually, it's mostly comic book videos.
Uh-huh.
But every once in a while I go for the education. And I found like that even the people that are putting out a lot of content that's like good content, where there's a tactical approach to it, even learning from free resources has helped, or free mentors. I'm just going to call them mentors, because even
Sure.
if they're alive or dead, like in a book, I would consider Napoleon Hill sort of a mentor, just because I've read a bunch of his stuff and it's influence. But anyways, I think learning from someone else, I think trying to reinvent the wheel is just so silly, and it's just so exhausting and so frustrating, because there's like the starving artist, right? And it's literally in the name of starving, is the starving artist.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that that's when people are starving artists, when they perceive their thing to be better than it really is. And I think when we have mentors to be able to have that honesty and say, yeah, it's pretty cool, but it's not exactly what you think. So how much of a role do you think mentors are? I seen you had like a nice little like vibe on that one. So tell me about it, man. How can people benefit from mentors?
How can people benefit from mentors? It'll help them get out of their own way. It helps them get out of their own way. It'll either change the way someone thinks or reinforce the way that you are currently thinking. Because if you're on the right track, then yeah, you're doing good. Having that assurance from someone who's been there, done that is, yeah, okay, you got this. Keep going. If you're completely off base, it's nice to have someone there to tell you, no. Try this instead. I would suggest you go this way. I would think you should go that way. So mentors are huge. Everybody, in my opinion, everybody should have one. Some of the biggest, some of the most successful people on the planet have mentors, have had someone coach them, and the way that we move forward is to pay it forward. So somebody who's on top will mentor somebody else, and then they'll go down and down and down until everybody just keeps reaching their potential. As far as I'm concerned, everybody should have one.
I totally agree with you. I think something that's interesting, I'm just kind of popping it up right now. I think something I was resistant to when I did not want to hire a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Knew I wanted to, it was just the fear part. It was just pride, ego, all those good things, all those things that keep us held back and stagnant where we don't want to be. I think something that was really interesting is what you said as well, is the people that are actually crushing it, the people that are ahead of us are always going to support us. And I find that it's the people behind us that are criticizing us the most.
Yeah. 100%.
And I said, I heard something like that once before, but I thought it was really cool. But I think that was something that I was resistant to when I was first looking for a mentor, for whether it was fitness or business. Those are my two main ones. I don't have a sports psychologist, but I think that would be cool to work with, or a productivity coach. I think that'd be cool to work with. But for fitness and business, those are my coaches. I've had coaches for like the last 4 years almost. But anyways,
yeah,
I think my biggest resistance to it was believing that those coaches would make me feel shitty about where I was at that time. And it was just like completely irrational, but I'm just kind of thinking of it now and I just wanted to share it. But I think it was so silly now looking back on it. I'm like, what? That makes no sense. Like the person is there to support and most likely is well-intentioned, which you got to filter through the well-intentioned and ill-intentioned. But when the coach is well-intentioned, they want you to succeed probably more than I've ever wanted to succeed, because it also works better for everyone else. I think that was a really interesting perception that I used to have. And
Mm-hmm.
by just like getting into it, that perception and that belief went away and it catapulted a lot of different components of my life. I just wanted to share that one because I thought it was kind of a neat little reflection that I just saw.
Yeah, I agree, because people want to bring you to their level. So like you said before, if somebody's beneath you, they want to pull you down to their level. But you have a mentor who's above you, they want to bring you up to their level. So you have a decision to make. And again, it comes down to, once again, being honest with yourself. Who are the ones you're going to hang around? Who are the ones that you want to mentor you? You know, are you more comfortable with the guys that are down there pulling you down because that's where you're familiar? Or are you going to go out of your comfort zone, get up there with the guys that have been there, done that, and have something of value for you to listen to? So yeah, 100%.
What would be one piece of advice for finding a mentor? Like to find a mentor that works really well for you.
Ooh,
maybe two. You can go with two if you want.
It's like getting married. You don't marry the first girl that you date. So get to know them, shop around a little bit. You know, the biggest thing for me is having a personality clash. If your personalities clash, it's not going to be a good partnership. You know, it's going to be hard for you to take. It's going to be hard for you to take criticism. It's going to be hard for you to take advice because you're going to take it in a place of emotion. If you can get along with somebody and know where they're coming from, then any criticism or critique or whatever is easier to take in. That's one thing for me. So, for example, my coach, because I have a nutrition coach for myself too, and his
coaches have coaches,
is
folks.
awesome.
You hear that? Coaches have coaches.
Coaches have coaches. Yeah, exactly. So my coach tells me, he's like, hey, things are looking good. Let's, make these adjustments and go from there. Hey, Dan, I see that you went a little bit heavy on your cheat meal. What the fuck, man? And that's exactly how I would say. It's like, what the fuck, man? And I'm just like, ugh, all right, fine. I can relate. So if you're going to have a mentor, someone you can relate to, someone that has your best interest at heart, because having your best interests is a win-win for both of you. If it's just for them to have a win, then it has nothing to do with you and you go nowhere. So if you find someone who actually wants you to succeed, it's like, I want this guy to get up to this level because it's going to be good for him to have that exposure, that experience, that knowledge, and he deserves that success. And in turn, he pumps my tires a little bit. Not that I expect it, but I mean, hey, this is my mentor, guys. If you want to succeed, he helped me do X and Y. Talk to him. It's like, oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. So, yeah, you have to find someone who's selfless, because mentorship is a selfless act sometimes.
Agreed. I totally agree with that. Oh,
it's a thing. It's a little bit of a thankless job sometimes. It's rewarding when you see, like for me, like I taught Taekwondo for such a long time. I taught kids, adults, teenagers, all of them. And everybody they were well-intentioned, but sometimes when you see them succeed, it's like, wow, it just gives you some goosebumps. It's like, you know what? This was good. And a lot of people out there, a coach that wants that recognition is like, where's my thank you? Like, you fucking owe me this. I did this for you. Right? And there's coaches like, you know what? I don't need a thank you. I just needed you to, I'm just glad that you're doing well. Like, I'm proud of you. Like that's for me sign of a good mentor, because it's success on both ends. It's a win-win. So having someone who's selfless and truly cares, yeah, that's it for me.
I think that's definitely, I think, I think that would be one of the most important takeaways for this episode, is that having a selfless coach that has the intentions and is in alignment with what you want, and being able to have that transparency and honesty and being able to like talk about it. I think that's absolutely huge. And I totally agree with it being on occasion a thankless job. But one thing I would definitely say is when people crush some wins, even if they're small, I find them to be so much more potent than any other. And this is totally biased opinion, but I think I think it has so much more of a, like the goosebumps, like what you're talking about. I think that happens more in this industry than any other industry, or at least pretty darn close.
Yeah. Anything where you are physically conquering something, I find, because if you can physically conquer something like your body, they've done the mental rigmarole, like it's just been, it's been a struggle, because what's happening up here reflects what's happening here. Anyone who's listening, what's happening in your mind reflects what your body its outcome is, how you perform, how you look. So when someone says to me, like when I've had clients say to me, he's like, Dan, I've lost like 5 pounds this month, fuck, I feel great. And I know for the last 6 or 7 months, they've been struggling with whatever they've been struggling with. I know that win for them is a life-altering highlight, So, yeah.
I totally agree with it. I love that. I think, and yeah, man, I think that we drive, I think, let me organize my thoughts on that one. I believe that the mind follows the body more often than the body follows the mind. And there is an emphasis on waiting to feel ready compared to actively trying to basically just put in forward momentum to create progress, like even if it's one step in front of the other. Do you think, and that's my thought, it's like feelings follow actions is kind of like the thought process that I got going on with that one. And what would you think of that one? Yeah, feelings follow actions. So when we actively try to do what we want to do, and we may not feel ready for it at that time, we eventually feel capable and competent over time. So I think we take too long thinking about doing something rather than just doing something, and then the feelings flow in after that point, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Sure. Again, I'm going to tie this into the theme a little bit, is having that internal honesty. Okay. So you've done this before. Have you ever done push-ups to failure?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're doing push-ups to failure, and okay, 20, good. 30, good. 40, 50, 60, 70. Holy shit, this is getting hard. Fuck. 80? What the hell? Now your body is like, I want to quit. I'm done. Sorry, your head is like, I want to quit. I'm shaking. I can't do this anymore. Right? Your body is like, the fuck are you doing? We haven't collapsed yet. Do another one. 90 fucking 1. Okay, I'm done. The hell you are. 92. Until your body collapses, your mind will decide, okay, are we going to give up now, or are we just going to push it? So when you have the strength in your mind to go, fuck this, we're getting another one, until your body submits to your mind, then you haven't pushed it. So the same can be said for Like until your body's like, okay, we physically just cannot. Like we are stuck, we just cannot go. And if your brain is going push, 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 and your body's like fuck, 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 fuck you, then you know you've reached it. You know you've reached that potential. Okay, until you and how you get better is you keep doing it over and you push, 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 push. So same thing with your business, for example. You know, mentally, it's like, oh my god, I can't do this right now, right? But your body thinks, how hard is it? You just gotta fucking type something. Type up a sentence. Type a sentence. Just use your fingers and type a sentence. And your brain is going, I don't know what to say. And your fingers are like, I'm ready to start typing. So your body will do what your mind tells it to do. And I think the mind has to be the one to be the strongest part. Because you can have a super, super strong body, but if your mind gives up, it's just a useless piece of meat. So
beautiful. Well, my friend, I think
the
useless. It'll be for today, at least for today, because I got some other calls going on later today too. But yes,
no, sorry,
I think that was. Oh, nothing to be sorry about at all. I'll just have you on again. I think it's fantastic. I plan on doing a couple of these, so I imagine there's going to be updates, and I'm probably going to get better at interviewing and stuff too. So it's going to be sweet.
This was sorry, I gotta say, you did an awesome job. I don't know how many podcasts have you done already? Like how many episodes of this have you done?
For my own, I think I'm on number 6 or 7 that I'm pre-recording, maybe 8, and then definitely in the 6 to 8 range. And then for guests, I've been 4. I've been a guest on 4 different podcasts.
You did a good job. You did a good job. This is so much fun.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So I'm proud of you. This is something that you've been mentioning and thinking of doing, from what I recall, about 2.5 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. You said, "Oh, I should do a podcast." So it was something like that.
You are 100% correct.
Yeah, I remember that. So no, this was a lot of fun. And I don't know if you could tell, but I was sitting here. I'm super fucking nervous. You know, my words are not. Wasn't flowing. So I mean, and this for me, if anybody is listening, Kyle knows this more than anything, that I am a super introverted person. So me being out in public and teaching people, that's one thing. But having to interact in an unfamiliar area and talking to people that I don't know is extremely, extremely difficult for someone like me. And I'm sure any other introverts out there know that it can be very, very taxing. So this podcast for me, I was like, yeah, I'm excited. I know Kyle, like this is going to be easy. You know, my body's like, yeah, just sit here in front of the computer and just fucking talk. You know, in my head, I'm going, I don't know. I don't want to sound like an idiot. I want to say something stupid. I don't know. So just, it just turns out it was just so much fun. So goosebumps. Nice. I'm showing my goosebumps right now if you can't see.
Nice. I actually, I have it written on my board over there. It's a good vibes make for good guests.
Yeah, there you go.
We're just making sure they're good vibes. So my friend, we got 2 questions for you. I'm going to end all my, for the time being, at least, I'm going to be finishing all my podcast episodes with these 2 questions. I think they're both really freaking slick. I believe I sent them to you beforehand, so that's good. But
I forgot what they were, so.
All good. So going into the first one, you're on your deathbed. There's no content of yours that exists. Anything that you've written, anything that you videoed, it's gone. What's your lesson you want to pass on?
To quote Shakespeare, to thine own self be true. Be honest.
Elaborate? Oh yeah.
Be honest with yourself. Be true to yourself, because if you are true to yourself and you know deep down what your limits are, they are easier. It's like fear. If you know what a fear is, if you know what a limit is, it's easier to acknowledge, and it's easier to face, and it's easier to push. So if you have a limit, you say it's on a scale of 10, say your limit is 5. If you can comfortably and honestly acknowledge, okay, my limit is 5, this is all I can do. If you want to make it a 6 or 7, you can, because you know how much you have to push it. But if your limit is a 5 and you think you're a 7, but you're acting as a 3, you're floating around and you're going to be so lost. So be as honest with yourself as you possibly can. That would be
awesome.
that would be the one thing I would, on my deathbed, if I could whisper those last words, be honest to yourself.
That's awesome. So then the last question, what are your tips, or how would you define living a limitless life?
How would I define living a limitless life? Well, again, acknowledging and knowing what the limits are, because you are limitless. Everyone's going to have limits. There are limits that are going to be met, and some are just going to be. Some limits are just not going to be broken. You know. But I will say this: if you're constantly pushing them, you're never going to know what they are. So it's not necessarily limitless, but you just haven't reached the limit. It's like doing a PR on a squat. You know, say a PR for someone is 400 pounds, right? Fuck, I did it. It's like, is that 400 pounds the most you're ever going to do? Well, it depends. On this day, it was. But if you keep training and pushing and making that threshold, you know, out of pushing that threshold as much as you can, oh my God, I did 405. Holy shit, I did 420. Fuck, I did 500 pounds for a squat. Holy Christ. Is that your limit? Or have you just pushed the boundary, pushed the threshold a little bit? So persistence is one, consistency is another, honesty is another one. Yeah, I personally don't know how much one individual, I don't know what do you know what the record is for a back squat or bench press? No even clue. Like, do you know what? Okay, so I think the bench press record is somewhere in like the 700-pound mark, which is absolutely insane. That's the most that's ever been. That's the most that's ever been done. Is that the most that will ever be done? Probably not. We knew that was a limit at one point, but is it? There will be a number where the human body just cannot do it. Yep. There is a number. Do we know what it is? I don't know. Not yet. I don't think we've reached it yet. So living a limitless life, know that there is a limit, but also be comfortable that you have not reached it yet. You haven't hit that. You haven't hit it yet.
Beautiful.
And it's scary. And it is very scary.
Fair.
It's very scary because you don't know. Yeah, you don't know. So.
Nice. I think that's fantastic. Well, Dan, where would people get to find you? Where do you want people to connect with you?
You can find me on Instagram. My handle is at Dan_Silverback Strength. And you can find me on YouTube as well. So at Dan_Silverback Strength. Those are two places you can find me. And yeah, also on Facebook, Dan at Silverback Strength. At Dan Silverback Strength. Yeah, sorry. So the three there: Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Excellent. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Wherever you're checking this out, be sure to like, subscribe, comment. If it's on a podcast app, be sure to leave a 5-star review, comment below. What do you think? And if you're listening to this on YouTube, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share it out to a couple friends of yours. And outside of that, I hope your day treats you as good as you look. Chat with you later.